All right, hi Food Prep. Today we are going to be learning all about quick breads and what quick breads entail. So to begin, what are quick breads, you might ask? Well, quick breads are flour mixtures that use fast-acting leavening agents. And by leavening agents, we mean baking soda and baking powder. These are chemical leavening agents that are going to allow your products to rise. Quick breads are grouped according to the thickness of their batter. So, is this something that can be poured? Is this something that has to be dropped by the spoonful? Or is this something that could be shaped with your hands? There are several categories of quick breads, the first being a pour batter. So, this is a very thin consistency as it can be poured from a mixing bowl or a liquid measuring cup. The liquid to flour ratio is 1 to 1. So for every 1 cup of flour, there is 1 cup of liquid. Some examples include waffles, pancakes, and popovers. So we have pictures of all of those listed below. Popovers, if you've never had them, are very thin consistency and they're hollow on the inside. Next, we have drop batters. This is more of a stiff batter. So this is something that can be dropped by the spoonful onto a baking sheet or into a baking pan. There is going to be a higher proportion of flour, and examples of this includes biscuits and muffins. So the ratio here is 2 to 1. So for every 2 cups of flour, there is 1 cup of liquid. Lastly, we have our soft dough. So this is thick enough to where you could actually roll or shape it with your hands. The ratio here is 3 to 1. So for every 3 cups of flour, there is 1 cup of liquid. Examples include biscuits. So there's different types of biscuits. There's drop biscuits as well as soft dough biscuits, scones, donuts, and some of your coffee cakes. The next section of our notes is very, very important. And a lot of this information is going to carry over into a lot of our other units as well. So, the function of the main ingredients found in quick breads. The first ingredient is flour. Generally, we use all purpose flour as it has lots of purposes. So, it could be used for a lot of different recipes. Sometimes your recipes might tell you to sift your flour before using it. This is going to allow your product to become light and airy and sifting out any of the clumps that might be within your flour. The main function of flour is going to be structure. So you're going to find that a majority of your ingredients, the most ingredient that you will find is your flour, and that's going to be the base, which provides structure. Next, we have sugar. We all know sugar is sweet and it generally provides flavor to your quick bread products. It also aids in browning. So when you pull out your muffins or your biscuits or after cooking pancakes, you will notice the color is a light golden brown. Next, we have liquid. Liquid is going to provide moisture as well as form gluten. So gluten is going to give our quick breads that strength and elasticity. And milk is most commonly used when making quick breads. Oftentimes, you might see water and sometimes even fruit juices as well. Next, we have salt. Salt is going to provide flavor. Um, in yeast breads, if you take culinary, salt has a whole nother function, but it's very simple in quick breads as to it only provides flavor. Leavening agents, these are the stars of the show. As I've already mentioned, baking soda and baking powder are going to be the main leavening agents. These are known as chemical leavening agents. Chemical leavening agents allow your baked products to rise at a faster rate. So, this is due to the carbon dioxide that is produced when mixed with other ingredients. Heat and liquid activate these leavening agents. So when you put them into the oven and you see them to begin to rise, that is due to leavening agents. You will also notice that steam could often act as a leavening agent as well. And this could be seen in cream puffs as well as popovers. Next, we have fat. Fat is going to provide tenderness. It's also going to improve the keeping quality. So, how long is this going to last? What is my shelf life? And it also can improve the flavor. Some common fats that can be used in quick breads include butter, margarine, shortening, and oil. Depending upon what you are making, sometimes your recipe is very specific in telling you what type of fat to be used, and even more so if it should be a solid fat or a liquid fat. Next, we have our eggs. Eggs are going to contribute to the color of your final product, the texture, and also include essential nutrients. The next component is going to discuss two specific mixing methods. The first one is the muffin mixing method. This is generally used for pour batters and drop batters. And no, this mixing method isn't just used for muffins. It could be used for a wide variety of different types of recipes. For this mixing method, most of these recipes for your pour batters and drop batters, the fat is going to be in liquid form. So we're looking at things like oil. Here are the steps. Step number one, you will combine together all of your dry ingredients. So things like flour, salt, sugar, leavening agent. In a separate bowl, you're going to combine your wet ingredients. So things like your milk, egg, and oil. From there, you are going to make a well, which is a small circle in the center of your dry ingredients. And from there, you are going to pour in your liquids. This is going to allow you to stir only until moistened to ensure that you are not over mixing. If you overmix, it may cause peaks as well as tunnels in your muffins. So, peaks are things that make it look like a cone shape, and tunnels, if you break into your muffins, you might see that there are small little tunnels and holes throughout your muffin. So those are signs that you have overmixed your batter. Next, we have our biscuit mixing method. This is generally used for soft doughs, and most recipes call for a solid form of fat. So this can include things like butter, margarine, and shortening. Here are the steps. Combine your dry ingredients into a mixing bowl. Next, you will cut in your solid fat with a pastry blender. So, a pastry blender is a tool that has wires at the bottom of it that allows you to break down a solid fat into dry ingredients to where it crumbles in pea size. This is going to allow you to evenly distribute your fat to where it will make your product nice and tender and flaky. From there, you will also make a well in the center of your dry ingredients and stir in your milk with a fork. Your fork is going to allow you to toss your dry ingredients into the liquid ingredients until a dough ball is formed. This is also going to prevent you from overmixing. Once the dough ball is formed, you will then knead your dough 10 to 12 times or whatever the recipe says. Now, kneading is a process where you are working your dough to further develop gluten. Gluten is going to provide strength and elasticity to your dough, and this could be done using your hands, or you can knead your dough using a KitchenAid and a dough hook. Using your hands, you're going to use the push, fold, rotate method. So, using the heel of your hand, you will push your dough out, fold it, and turn it a quarter turn. This will be done 10 to 12 times in a very short motion. From there, depending upon your recipe, most recipes tell you to either pat out or roll out your dough to a specific thickness. Most recipes will tell you to achieve a 1 inch to a ½ inch thickness to ensure that it bakes properly. Oftentimes, students like to roll it out to where it's really thin. At that point, it's going to overcook and your product is going to be very tough and it's almost going to resemble something like a hockey puck. So be very, very careful when preparing your soft doughs and be mindful of the thickness that it requests before you place it into the oven. The last part of this method is cutting out your biscuits. Most biscuits can be cut out with a biscuit cutter. If you don't have a biscuit cutter, a glass with a thin rim will work as well. We also like to discuss the nutrients that can be found in quick breads. So, depending upon what you're making, those nutrients are going to vary. But most of the nutrients that you will find are the six essential nutrients. So, the first one is carbohydrates. As you now know, carbohydrates are made up of starches and sugars. So, flour is considered to be a starch, and things like granulated sugar, brown sugar, powdered sugar are your sugars. Fats. You could find fat in a lot of different ingredients, but the main one is going to be either your solid or liquid fat, so your butter, shortening oil. But it also could be found in your eggs. When you think about an egg, it has two parts, the whites and the yolk. The yolk contains the fat. And then lastly, milk. You will also find fat in your milk if you are using a whole fat, 2% or 1% milk. You'll also find protein in milk. And then your vitamins and minerals, you generally find vitamin A and B. And then some minerals that are commonly found in quick breads are iron and calcium. Storing your quick breads. To preserve freshness, you want to make sure that they're stored in a tightly sealed container. You also can freeze them to preserve the moisture, and that could be done in plastic wrap or in an airtight container. Lastly, all breads are best if they are eaten within the same day unless you plan on freezing them. All right, to finish up, there are some convenience forms of quick bread. So instead of making them from scratch, some convenience forms have all of the work done for you or part of the work done for you. Consider cost as well as savings in time when purchasing these convenience forms. So sometimes it's cheaper to buy a convenience form, where other times it's a little more expensive than making it from scratch. So some examples include ready to eat. So in my opinion, ready to eat would be things like your Eggo waffles. So you just have to no, that I'm going to call that one frozen. So those are frozen. Your ready to eat are basically made for you already. So if you're buying muffins from the grocery store, if they're packaged or maybe they're fresh from the bakery, those are ready to eat. Mixes. Mixes are things like a muffin mix or a pancake mix, where all you're adding is things like oil or an egg or liquid. Lastly, we have refrigerators. So we have pre-made doughs like biscuit dough, where they're refrigerated, and all you have to do is get your biscuits onto a pan and bake them off in the oven. So there are a lot of convenience forms, but making things from scratch is always the best. It's always going to taste the best. It's just going to take a little bit more time, but that's what you just have to consider when you're purchasing your quick breads. So that is it. I hope you've learned a little bit today, and I hope you look forward to making quick breads. Bye.